Majority of working professionals prioritize their short-term expenses over long-term financial planning. This leads to people taking EMIs at exorbitant costs and servicing these EMIs forever. You can very easily overcome this EMI trap, but have you ever paused to ask what your future financial goals are and how you're going to achieve them? In this video, I'll discuss 3 critical aspects of framing a good financial goal and how you can build a portfolio to achieve that goal. Of course, towards the end of this video, I'll also reveal 2 funds that you can use to achieve most long-term financial goals. When I was in my mid-20s, I desperately wanted to buy the Hyundai Getz. All I knew was that I wanted that Getz, but I was unable to translate this into a financial goal. I eventually bought my Hyundai Getz by taking an EMI from SBI Bank and paying nearly 20% of my take-home salary to service this EMI for multiple years. I thought through this and defined buying a car as a financial goal, then perhaps I could have achieved this by not taking a loan and not paying those EMIs for those several years. Now consider this. I want to save some money because I want to buy a car. Would you consider this as a financial goal? Well, in my opinion, this is a very sloppy financial goal. Through that statement, the only information is the aspiration to buy a car. There are no financial details in it. A good financial goal would be something like this. I want to buy a car worth 15 lakh rupees over the next 3 years. Do you notice the difference here? In the second statement, there were 3 things that were absolutely clear. 1, the goal itself, which is to buy a car. Second, the tenure over which I want to save this money, in this case 3 years. Third and the most important thing, the quantum of money required, in this case 15 lakh rupees. Without these 3 defining attributes, your goal is not a financial goal, but rather an aspiration. Let me give you another example. I want to buy an apartment in North Bangalore over the next few years versus I want to buy an apartment over the next 10 years costing 3 crore rupees. I hope you get the difference. Now here's the best part. A clearly defined financial goal allows you to plan for it in an objective way, therefore eliminating the need to take a loan and paying EMIs forever. Go back to the car example and dig in a little further. The idea is to buy a car worth 15 lakh rupees over the next 3 years. So how can you achieve this? Since this is just a 3-year goal, this is obviously a short-term financial goal. In any short-term financial goal, capital protection is super important. Because just in case your saved up money goes down for whatever reason, then you won't have the time to recoup your losses. The past experience has shown us that recovering from a loss can take much longer than 3 years. So therefore, you don't want to be in a situation where your capital is not protected when you're saving for short-term financial goals. So having clearly defined that, you can remove equity as a choice of instrument to save for a short-term financial goal. If you're young, there is always an exception. You can probably take some risk and invest in an equity product even though it's a short-term goal. The question is how much? I would advise to stick under 25%. A proxy for equity could be a large cap fund. However, a large portion of this portfolio should go to a debt fund, maybe up to 75%. When I talk about debt instruments, ultra short-term bond fund, a medium-term bond fund come to my mind. So assuming you're young, your portfolio to buy a car in 3 years will consist of 2 funds. A small portion of equity fund, maybe up to 25%, and a large portion of a debt fund up to 75%. So now that you've defined your financial goal and also identified what sort of funds will help you achieve that goal, the next step is to figure out how to save towards it. Clearly, the easiest way to do this is to do an SIP in these 2 funds for 3 years. So at this stage, we have defined our financial goal. We have identified what sort of funds are needed to achieve this financial goal. We've even identified the fact that we need to do an SIP for 3 years to achieve this financial goal. The next obvious question is to figure out how much SIP you should do every month to achieve your financial goal. There is some math involved here, but I'm going to skip that for convenience. But let me share the summary points with you. From your equity portion of the portfolio, because you're investing for short term, you could expect maybe about 10 or 11% return. From your debt instrument, you can probably expect around 8% return. Now, if you're investing 75% in debt and 25% in equity, and if you consider 8% for debt and 10% for equity, the blended return for the two fund portfolio is roughly about 8.75%. At a growth rate of 8.75%, if you back work, you will figure that you need to do an SIP of 35,000 every month. There are plenty of SIP calculators that you can use to figure this amount. Now, 25% of 35,000, that is rupees 8,750, will go towards your equity fund, and 75% of 35,000, that is rupees 26,250, will go as SIP towards your debt fund. And in this way, you will do your SIPs for next 3 years. When it comes to financial planning, it's always good to be on the conservative side as opposed to being aggressive. Now, if the markets are in your favor and you achieve your financial goal well in advance, then great. Close your portfolio and give yourself a pat on your back for achieving your financial goal in a structured way and avoiding the need to take an EMI. On the flip side, if the markets are not in your favor, then please be prepared to continue your investment for a slightly longer period. Now, before I end this video, let me take another quick example of a financial goal and figure how you can achieve it. Of course, towards the end of this video, I'll also reveal 2 funds that you can use to achieve most long-term financial goals. Assume you're 30 today and you want to buy an apartment costing 3 crore rupees by your 40th birthday. Now, this is a fairly well-defined financial goal, but how are you going to achieve it? Here are the key things to note here. You're young, which means you can afford to take risk. You want to achieve this goal in 10 years, therefore you have good amount of time. 10 years also means you can solely depend on equity as your primary vehicle to achieve your financial goal. In your financial planning, it's reasonable to assume 12% as the rate of return from equity. You can consider a 2-fund portfolio to achieve this financial goal. 1. A large cap mutual fund. 2. A mid cap mutual fund or a Nifty Next 50 fund. Of course, you can get into the nitty-gritties of how to liquidate this fund as you approach the 10th year mark. But that's a topic for another video. I hope you found this video helpful in properly defining a financial goal and taking a structured approach to achieve it. And I hope you lead a zero EMI life. If you've got any interesting stories on how you've achieved your financial goal, then do comment below and let us know. I'm sure the community will benefit. Happy investing.